Welcome. You're listening to This Leader, the podcast. If you lead people and are seeking the transformational, high-impact secrets that will lead to greater joy and fulfillment in your work, will optimize your team performance, and will help you create a happy, highly productive workplace, then you are this leader and you're in the right place. I'm your host, Claire Laughlin, and each week my guests and I will explore the mindsets, techniques, and actionable strategies that will help you build the career, team, and organization of your dreams. Because I believe no one should have to suffer in a dysfunctional workplace. Let's get started. When I say fire horse, what image comes to mind? For me, it's power, it's energy, it's untamed movement, like something wild and alive that you either learn to ride with or you get thrown from, right? Well, my friends, we are entering the year of the fire horse in the Chinese lunar calendar. And whether you know anything about Chinese lunar calendar or zodiac or not, I hope this episode gives you pause and a lens to consider some very curious questions, such as, what patterns have you been running that used to serve you, but now might be holding you back? And what would it look like to shed patterns, habits, and even deeply held beliefs that are no longer working so you can step into new energy? These aren't just philosophical questions. Answering questions like these, well, this is the work of sustainable leadership. And my guest today has spent years helping people unearth the answers to them. Today, Roxanne Harrison is back. It's her second appearance on the podcast, and I'm thrilled to have her. Roxanne is a certified narrative Enneagram teacher and an advanced Qigong instructor who spent 18 years in senior corporate management before dedicating herself to helping people break free from the patterns that create burnout and stagnation. Roxanne doesn't just teach the Enneagram as a personality framework. She weaves it together with ancient Qigong practices to help leaders recognize when they're pushing too hard, or when they're withdrawing too much, or running on autopilot. And her timing could not be better, because we're entering the year of the fire horse in the Chinese lunar calendar. This is a year of intense energy, transformation, and possibility that could either amplify your patterns or invite you to finally let them go. Roxanne and I have been walking the forest trails together for years, and what I love about her is how she brings both wisdom and practicality to this work. She knows what it's like to be caught in cycles of her own, right, of intensity. But today, she's giving us a glimpse into how each of the 9 Enneagram types can navigate high energy seasons without burning out. So very timely. So get a paper and pen, because today we're going to walk through all 9 Enneagram types. We're going to go through all 9, and Roxanne's going to share what each type needs to loosen their grip on, what they need to let go of, and what new energy they're being invited to step into. So whether you're the leader who never says no, or the one who keeps the peace at the cost of your own clarity, right? Or the one with so many ideas that you can't stay present, I invite you to listen in and find yourself reflected in this conversation. And more importantly, consider ways that you can shed your old patterns, those ones that might not be serving you any longer, and step into new energy and align yourself with the natural rhythms that actually sustain you instead of exhaust you. So let's dive in. Here's my conversation with Roxanne Harrison. Well, hello, Roxanne. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Claire. Thanks for having me back. Nice to see you.
It's fun to do this again.
Yeah.
So I was just very excited to have you come and join me, because we were having this great conversation the other day, and you shared that in this next Chinese lunar year, it's a special year for you and just a very special year overall. So tell us more about that.
Sure. So Claire and I have known each other for many years, and we are often found out walking in the forest. We're so lucky because we live close to the forest. And so I was just telling Claire that I was really excited about next year because we're moving into the year of the fire horse in the Chinese zodiac. And so kind of quote unquote, this was my year. So I'm turning 60 next year, and the fire horse comes around every 60 years, which is crazy, right? The Chinese calendar is rooted in not just the lunar calendar, but also the Chinese zodiac works in 12-year cycles. it has these 12 animals like snakes or horses or the rat, the ox, the monkey, the dragon, the tiger, etc. And they serve as archetypes. So, as you know, I teach the Enneagram. I also teach Qigong. So, I love just playing with these different frameworks. And so, in Chinese traditional medicine, they've got these 12 animals serving as these archetypes, these personalities. And then they also use the five elements. And those five elements also have characteristics. So, when I teach like the five element flow or work with the elements, each of the elements, of course, has organs associated and seasons. And so if you take kind of 12 times 5, you get 60 years. Because I can be a fire horse. My husband, who turned 60 last year, was a wood snake. So we're coming out of the year of the wood snake
Okay.
and entering the fire horse.
Okay. So let's talk about the five elements really quick: wood, fire, water, air, earth, right? No.
Almost. So metal, water, wood, fire, and earth are the five elements. And each has a particular quality. And so, again, like the five elements, the qualities, we work with them. So when we do Qigong, we're working with, for instance, wood has this quality of growth, creativity, expansion. Fire, think about it, ignites passion, transformation, joy, happiness. People that are
Yes.
more kind of metal, there's a discipline, there's a boundary, courage, strength. Water, if you're a water type, there's a lot of wisdom, intuition, depth, inner peace. And you can think about people, right? Earth, stability, patience, reliability, balance. So again, it's a great framework to kind of look at, okay, as we are leaving the wood snake and entering into the fire horse, what can we kind of garner here? The wood snake this year was like an invitation to trust your instincts.
Mm. Okay.
So there's a shedding of the skin, right? Snakes shed their skin, and that really represents rebirth, renewal. So if you're a snake, you're kind of a deep thinker. Snakes are often very perceptive and also very skeptical about everything. So the wood element, right, is growth, expansion, creativity, fire, passion, transformation. So it's just a cool time to kind of look at the wood snake. What have I let go of? What have I shed this year? How have I brought patience to the process? How have I let go of limiting beliefs? How have I loosened the grip of a story, right? So it's all about shedding.
Interesting. Okay. I love that.
Yeah, of course, fire horse, it's like, oh, now we get to rediscover what freedom is, right? We've let go of some things. We've got space for expansion, for freedom. There's a lot of adventure, there's action. So it's a very different feel than a wood snake year, right?
So the energy is changing, is shifting, right? The energy in the world, in a sense, right? Through this Chinese lunar calendar perspective. And I have to say out loud, I love all this stuff because I think anything at all that gives you a moment to pause and reflect metaphorically on your patterns, your life, where you're headed, I'm fascinated by it. I mean, I don't even have to buy in hook, line, and sinker to any particular thing if it gives me a moment of insight and a lens to learn and grow.
Absolutely.
And so, well, I don't know hardly anything about, the Chinese lunar calendar and all these signs, and I don't know hardly anything about it. These conversations fascinate me because one, there's just a world of learning out there. And two, it's just a window. It's a window into what if I thought through that lens for a minute? What if I just ask myself that question? What have I shed this past year? What have I let go of? What have I loosened my grip on? Right?
Yeah.
Where did I grow my patience a little bit? Where did I bring more patience to the process? And looking forward, because right now this will probably air right close to our traditional new year, January 1st, and so a lot of people have that feeling of renewal and fresh and growth and what's this new year going to hold. And no matter what the date is that we think about these questions, the idea here for me is, okay, so if I look through that lens, I'm letting go of certain things. what's that new energy? Where am I drawn? Where do I want to ignite? That kind of thing. That's what I'm thinking about. So I love this stuff. Love it. It's fascinating.
Yeah, and the Chinese system, I love what you just said because I always say to clients or students, like, there are many roads to Rome, right? And, Bruce Lee has this quote and he says something like, research your own experience, absorb what's useful, reject what is useless, and add what is essentially your own. So extract what you want, discard what doesn't serve you or feel valuable, and then just integrate it into your own unique insights that help you on your own path. And so that's
Right.
really what any of these frameworks that I play with invite us to do. And, I think the fire horse energy is about like, how am I going to bring my full energy into this new year? Where have I been holding back? Like, where am I ready to step forward? Because fire horse is you've got the combination of the fire and then the horse. They're the like most active, most adventuresome combination. So you got a lot of yang energy, a lot of vitality, a lot of intensity.
Yeah.
And so it's very different than this introspective you're just coming out of.
Right.
And the other thing that's cool about using the Chinese system is you can use the moon, right, which they do, to kind of set your intentions through the month. And so the whole point of the Chinese system is about working with the energy of nature. So we flow with nature, not against its rhythms. So life, moving from dark to light, yin to yang, rest, renewal, all of these seemingly opposite things. And so as you start the new moon, right, it's like a time for new beginnings. We set our intention there. Okay, so here's my intention. Then, that kind of first quarter, we're getting into action, right? Full moon, we're starting to kind of reflect, we're celebrating. Then as the last quarter, that kind of the waxing moon comes, then you're renewing, you're resting so you can go back into action. So I love the idea. One of the things that I saw it somewhere and it really landed with me was this idea of creating rhythm, not rituals. And that's kind of what I have been moving towards in my own life. Years past, my habits were very rigid. I have to do this at this time. I've got to do this. Then I got to do this. And what I'm finding is if I can loosen the grip on that, right? It's like, and just create a rhythm. And that's why I like this idea of using the lunar calendar and moving with the rhythm of nature as a guidepost, really.
Absolutely. I mean, I think there's just something incredibly transformational about aligning yourself with the energy of the seasons, the energy of the day. Staying in touch with like, okay, where is my energy right now? Even throughout the day. Oh, do I have a lot of creative energy? I want to come and create something right now. Or is it just like, well, it's 9 o'clock. It's time to create something. The more I can live in alignment with allowing myself to harness the natural energy that I have throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month, I don't know, the better I feel really deeply at a very deep level.
Yeah. And I understand, we have to be at work at a certain time. There are certain time constraints. But again, as much as possible, starting to swim downstream, and particularly as an Enneagram teacher and as a type 8, my biggest growth edge in my life is how do I manage my energy? Because I have so much energy and at times too much energy. And my kind of wake up call in that type structure of my personality is pushing the river, kind of pushing the boulder up, this kind of like, I can make it happen. And so it's been a real challenge for me and a growth edge of like, how can I be here in this situation and use just the right amount of energy? And that's where nature is such a good teacher because you look outside and you're like, well, the tree's not using too much energy and it's not too little energy, Nature's figured it out.
Yeah, good stuff. I think we could all benefit a little bit from paying closer attention to our own energetic cycles and aligning with that. That said, I want to transition here because I want to talk about the Enneagram as well. And again, on our walk in the forest, as we were talking about the year of the fire horse, we also touched on this idea that you're an Enneagram teacher. So this is why we're going here to talk about, not to go in depth with the 9 types of the Enneagram, because that would take a lot longer than we have on this podcast, but they can go to your class for that. But instead to be thinking through this lens of, there are patterns that you may discover if you dive into your Enneagram type and you understand yourself through that particular lens.
Hmm.
And there are things that each Enneagram type may be able to let go of and invite in order to have a year of growth. So, how about if we kind of go through the 9 types from that angle? And I want to start with your type. I want to start with 8.
Okay. So a couple of things I'll say before we jump in. So the Enneagram, it's this psychological tool and it really helps us understand our adaptive strategies because really our personality is a grouping of patterns, mental patterns, emotional patterns, behavioral patterns. That's really what your personality is. And the adaptive strategies are brilliant. And we want to free up our gifts even more. So that I just want to kind of open the discussion like there's nothing wrong with you. And I don't know, there's a Zen saying, right? Like you're perfectly perfect and there's room for improvement.
I love that. Absolutely. Again, it's literally like just pause for a second. And I don't like people to think about themselves too much. Don't get super self conscious, become self aware. So, how can we use any tool to become a little more self aware, to gain some insight on ourselves, to ask ourselves the question, wow, is this my pattern? This might be my pattern. Is this pattern serving me? Or to what point is this pattern serving me? And at what point do I need to loosen my grip and let go a little bit and try something different? Because our patterns and our habits will hold us in place without us even really noticing if we're not careful.
Yeah. So again, it's like, can I become conscious of and discerning about what I'm doing? And some types, some personality structures turn in really want to go for that self improvement project and others not so much. So anyway, okay, so let's jump in here. So as I said, I lead with type 8 and really the core of type 8 is energy, this life force energy that type 8s have. And so when we're overdoing strength, right, what we're doing is we're ignoring what we would be perceiving as weakness or vulnerability. So at each type, there's I want to go towards this I am, and then there's kind of I am not, right? So the pattern, it's easy sometimes to see the I am. The avoidance is a little trickier. Yeah.
Yeah, like I identify as this. I like this part of myself. I'm proud of this part of myself. Okay.
Yeah. So that's a little easier to see. So I can feel that strength, that need to be strong and control in myself. It's a little harder for me to see that I'm avoiding something, that I don't want to be perceived as weak or vulnerable and unaware of those sadder emotions, right? So again, this is where the Enneagrams help so much is to loosen that grip on that excessive energy, to feel when I'm pushing what I call pushing the river, and knowing that that's a habit that has helped me get to where I am. But it's also now interfering with my relationships, with how I'm perceived, those kind of things. So now, we can talk about all the practices. And I think we did on our first episode quite a bit, but, just kind of like my belief, like let go of the battle. I say that to myself because the 8's, this like worldview of like the world is a rough and tumble place. So let go of the battle, Roxanne. Breathe quietly. Just let it be. That's a big one for 8. 8's working on their energy, how to manage it, this thing called life force.
Right.
Again, you'll see it's a gift and we can get caught by our gifts, right? We overuse them. We overuse them.
We overuse anything. I talk about this all the time. And when I'm teaching, I talk about this all the time. I call it the 90-10. 90% of that quality really serves you. It's that last 10% that gets us in trouble.
Yeah, that's what becomes the distortion, Claire, of the personality. That's the distortion, right? So 8, 9, 1 are in the body center. The core of 9s, right? This relaxed groundedness. I was like, they're like redwood trees. So the pattern here is stay steady, stay peaceful inside and out. And so the invitation is kind of notice when you distract yourself. Often 9 will talk about like, there's a priority that's coming up that I know I need to pay attention to, and I don't want to have to pay attention to it because it's uncomfortable. So it's this little clue of like, oh, there's a hook around knowing priorities or being asked to prioritize. And so there's this way of 9s wanting to stay a little bit in that steady space. And then, we've talked to 9s, there's a sadness that can come up around it too, because it's like, I don't know what my priorities are. So there's a confusion that can create some sadness. So that's a real, like, what's the loosening here is, like I tell 9s, like have a little secret outlet where you can go and really push boundaries and work on expressing your anger, find a safe place to do that. Because what happens there is once they can start to express and push boundaries and express the anger a little bit, the anger's a motivator. So then priorities become more clear. There's a clarity that can kind of come through for nines.
But the anger for a 9 could be something that it just feels uncomfortable. It disturbs their peace. Their peacefulness is something that's a beautiful quality that has served them very well, right? But it's kind of, again, are we over indexing on that sense of peacefulness and we're subtly missing out on something really powerful and important that anger could give us? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, like the I am for a 9 is around peacefulness and harmony, right? And so I don't want to feel uncomfortable and I don't want to create discomfort or disharmony. And so the anger can do that. That's the perception.
I see. I like that. I like that framing that like I am this and I'm not that. Or maybe I don't know, but that's my blind spot. I like that. I like that. We should carry that forward.
And of course, this is where the tension lies. Because if you think about anything where there's a I am and I am not, an affirming and a denying, the whole trick here is like, can I hold both of those things? Because of course, we're both of those things, right? We're both of those things.
Absolutely.
So with the 9, the pushing of the boundaries, like finding a place where you can express and push boundaries because, anger can put us into action. And this is where 9s, like getting into action clarifies commitment and priorities.
Boy,
Yeah.
there's a lot there. Each of these things I could just go on and on and on. But let's talk about, I want to make sure we touch on all 9 types. So let's talk about type 1.
Type 1, the core quality here is around alignment. Type 1s, I like to mention, they're very much in integrity, alignment. And so the pattern can be, I have to stay in that alignment. So I might push down things that will take me out of alignment with what I perceive as right and good.
Okay.
Again, here with the 1s, there's a little bit of a repressing or pushing down of anger because there's a perception here of anger isn't the right quality, the right emotion. But what happens to our type 1s is not only are they putting a lid on the anger, they're pushing down the joy. So it's just like, what we do, like the kink in the hose. Well, nothing gets through. And so loosening the grip here is really on the need to be right, be appropriate. I mean, I always tell ones like, go do some spontaneous dancing or go get a massage, right? Because ones have this belief that like, I have to do all the work and I can't relax until it's done. Or use essential oils, really try to relax. It's simple. It's simple for maybe me, but it's for type 1, it's like, I can't do that,
Because there's that belief of, no, I need to express this goodness, this rightness, the sort of, I need to be the one.
Really, it's an internal boundary that they've created, a set of rules on how, right? There's a set of rules. This is what it means. And everybody's rules are different. Now, often, I'm just going to say this one little caveat of ones, because ones say, oh, you must be a type 1 because you keep a very tidy house. That is not it. Because if the 1 doesn't believe that a tidy house is what it means to be right and good, then they're not going to do that. There's a lot of memes and those kind of things out there that are very surface. So there's much more to that, but you'll sense the alignment. You'll sense the kind of how that inner boundary creates sometimes some rigidity in the 1. And so, like I said, just going and moving the body and moving energy through the body or relaxing, letting somebody, give you a massage, really simple, what seem to be simple things, but are difficult for our type 1s.
Right. Color outside the lines. Like you've created a rule set for yourself. Break some of your rules here a little bit. Push away from the rule set and see how you feel, or do something a little bit outside the rule set and see. Let yourself have the freedom of going a little outside the rule set that you've imposed on yourself in a sense.
Yes. Yes. And, bit by bit, just do it. Doesn't have to be something huge.
No, right? Because again, I'm just using these numbers, theoretically in a sense, but 90% of this has really gotten you a long way and it serves you well. Serves you, serves the people around you, makes you a happy life. This is good, right? But maybe you could relax the boundaries 10%, or something like that. Let's go to number 2. So we did 8, 9, 1. Okay, what's 2?
So 2, 3, 4, we're shifting into the heart. So heart types bringing in the kind of the information through the heart first. 2, the pattern, the focus is on others. It's external. They're constantly like in a relational field and they're putting relationships first. Just super attuned to what people need and how to stay connected. So just again, loosening the grip on the giving, loosening the grip on giving to others, making sure others' needs are met first. And so for a 2, shifting into finding time to maybe creatively express yourself and do something just for you. This is very hard for our type 2s. Really ask yourself, what do I enjoy? How could I express myself creatively? Write a love letter to yourself. I mean, honestly, the type 2s, it's a challenge for our 2s to be able to express themselves that way.
But it just sounds like in every one of these, what you're talking about is just a little better balance, right? Yeah.
And noticing, right? There's a lot of noticing. Okay, now when I am shifting my focus externally and I'm starting to help, nobody's even asked me for help. And yet here I am helping. And we do it in honor of, right? These patterns are there to help us survive, to help us with meeting the needs of connection, of security, of safety, of autonomy. And those aren't negotiable. Those are needs that we have to survive. So again, it sounds like we're constantly at choice. And that's our hope. But so much of this is unconscious. So until we can catch ourselves, we won't be able to change. So now we catch ourselves. Oh, I'm doing that pattern. Yep, I see it.
Doing that thing again. Right.
Or as I say often, there's Roxanne. There's Roxanne doing Roxanne again. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, let's go to number 3.
Okay, so our type 3s, I didn't say, the core of 2 is really like, I call it like warm humanity. And the core of 3 is really like the meaning of our existence. I mean, 3s are like, they can get lost in the doing. The pattern is to get lost in the doing and adapting themselves to fit particular situations so they can be valuable. That's the pattern. There's a lot of doing and there's a lot of adaptability. So again, a simple way to just loosen that grip is just to notice when you're so focused on goals and tasks, when it's all about goals and tasks. And I always tell type 3s, like, go do improv, because improv, you're not going to be guaranteed you're good at. So 3s, they'll catch themselves kind of checking out, well, am I going to be good at this? Am I going to succeed? Because I'm not sure I want to try something that there's potential for embarrassment or failure.
Mm-hmm.
So improv's a great way to loosen the grip on that.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that's a good one for them.
Okay, how about 4?
Okay, and then type 4, the core energy here is around like mystery and beauty, right? And so the pattern for our type 4 is to notice what's missing, to go and pay attention to like what's absent, what's missing,
What's not here?
what's not here, kind of the if only I kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so where they can loosen the grip is when they catch themselves doing that. Notice that after that, there's usually a story. There's a lot of emotion. There's a lot of story to that. And so I think for 4s, having a gratitude journal is a really great thing to do because it keeps them in the present moment. Because a lot of 4s think a lot about the past or what could be in the future. And so really just writing down, something simple in the day of what you're grateful for is a good one for 4s.
So would it be accurate to say that a 4 possibly looks at what didn't go well today, or what I was missing in today, or what might happen tomorrow that won't be in my favor, or that kind of thing, like sort of looking for gaps, where a gratitude journal could help you look for what is working, or could help you kind of index on, wait, there's actually a lot that is going well and going right. Is that a good interpretation?
Yes, and you'll hear something similar in 6. So 4 and 6 both can very much benefit from writing down what went well for different reasons. And we'll talk about that when we get to 6. But yes, for 4s, their emotional story and their emotional life is their real life. And because, again, this quality of beauty and mystery, 4s can spin this really beautiful story about what could be. There's a lot of comparison.
Okay.
Right? So they're very, again, noticing, oh, I don't exactly want what you have, but I want a version of that for myself. So that's the kind of what's missing here. And so just being grateful for, whatever's in the present helps shift that focus a little bit.
Okay. How about fives?
Okay, so then if we move 5, 6, 7, now we're in the head center, different energy here. So type fives, the core energy here is the capacity to recognize and what's the word I want to use? Recognize, simplify is coming to me, but that's not exactly it. So the pattern here, though, is there's a story fives have around scarcity,
Okay.
around not just scarcity, so scarcity of resource,
Mm-hmm.
scarcity of time, maybe scarcity of skills, scarcity of information, and scarcity here. The five really believes the world may overwhelm them. There's a powerlessness that a five can tap into when they're starting to do a lot of this self work. And so loosening the grip, the pattern is like, I need to loosen the grip on this belief that like I could go live on an island all by myself and I would be fine. Like there's a way that fives, they really believe I don't need people. It's this way of like, I'm a very minimalist. I just need the information. I need myself. I need my head. And so I constantly am reminding fives like, people are resources, relationships are resources. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I ask like a type five, reach out to somebody, like this is something I would say to a type five is like, once a week, reach out to somebody you haven't talked to, somebody you care for. And that's really hard often for type five.
Okay, so I'm sort of wanting to explain this just a little further. I'm a little confused about that one. So, five might be more of that independent, I can do it myself. I will gather the information. I've got the resource. And they would isolate themselves a little bit in an overexpression of that or
Yes, that's a good question. So, what you're describing, self sufficiency, is very important for our fives. That is coming through. And, isolate might be a strong word, but there is this way where the energy is withdrawing in our fives. They're called the observer. So, there is a way that they pull back. They want to observe. And there is a real awareness around how much energy I have for the day. So, just almost the opposite of my type 8, I know I have energy that will keep going and going, almost too much energy sometimes.
Mhm.
The 5 is the opposite. They really have a sense of like, I have this much energy and I don't want to expend it here or here or here.
Right.
And so, what I'm suggesting is that by understanding that you could actually have generative energy through relationship.
Right.
Like, there are ways you don't have to just isolate to conserve energy. You could actually have a generative, energetic experience in a way.
Yeah. So the edge there is maybe I'm overprotecting, that last 10%, I'm overprotecting my need for
Self sufficiency.
okay, got it.
And there's some competency in there. There's some other things, but I know we're trying to be concise here and sometimes it's hard. The other thing I'll just mention about fives, which is Qigong. I know I'm a teacher, but like Qigong is a really good practice, a body practice, yoga. Fives are really in their head. So just getting into the body is a really good practice for them.
All right, 6.
Okay. And then type 6, I'm biased about my sixes because I've been married to one for so long. The sixes, there's like an attentiveness that is at the core of who they are, an awakeness. And the pattern, though, can then become a hypervigilance, right? The hypervigilance part of the 6. So you're talking about the 10 and 90, like sixes will say there's 10% of the risk that occupies 90% of their headspace.
Okay. They're really on the lookout for what might be risky, where there might be trouble or something like that. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So sixes are very aware. In fact, they have a sixth sense. They're very aware of what could go wrong. And so what I always tell sixes is just be on the lookout. You're a great problem solver.
Right.
Be on the lookout when you become a problem seeker.
Yeah, that's good.
You're constantly seeking problems and don't create problems that don't exist. This is a suffering that the sixes create is this constant hypervigilance. all of these patterns are the ways we exhaust ourselves.
Right, exactly. Seeing our own patterns and actually having the courage and wherewithal to work with our deepest blind spots, because that's what these are. They are real blind spots for us, right? These patterns have worked, they have served us, they have helped us survive. And so if we are really going to take a look, it's not going to be easy work.
I tell type sixes to help kind of loosen the grip on this pattern is like write down the things you thought might happen that didn't happen. So we talked about the successes or the gratitude, a little bit different flavor here because sixes are kind of looking at like, oh, here are all the things that could potentially go wrong. I need to have a plan A, plan B, whatever. And so to have them write down, oh, that actually didn't happen. That didn't happen.
That didn't go wrong.
I actually had success today. And so allowing them to shift out of that story.
Okay, let's do our last one. Let's go into 7. That's my type.
A 7's like the real root of consciousness, that the realization of consciousness for 7s. Like when 7s really become present, right? Then it's like they've stepped into their field of potential. They're possibilitarians, right? They see potential everywhere. But I feel like when 7s really recognize the 10,000 joys and sorrows, like they are a force to be reckoned with, so because, the focus is on pleasure, the focus is on, I got to make sure I have multiple options, the positive side of things, right? So again, loosening the grip. I know you've worked on this, so hard over the years of like the future thinking, like the ideas, right? The next thing I'm going to do, the next thing. And I mean, you could just talk about what's helped you the most, kind of loosen the grip on that constant future thinking and becoming more present. What's helped you the most?
Honestly, really understanding that life is an entire wheel of emotion in a sense, and I will be missing a lot. It's kind of weird. I'm using my desire for more in a sense to be like, oh, I want it all, right? So what do I want? I want the sadness. I want the struggle because that is the richness of life. I mean, no, I don't really want the sadness and the struggle, but I do know that is a rich life. A rich, meaningful life is all of that. And I noticed that my pattern to always try to do more and add more and variety and all that stuff, it doesn't actually serve me because then I don't experience things like I want because I'm rushing to the next thing. So I guess I've just really realized over the years that the way I'm wired can almost oddly take me away from my best experience of life. It really can. I need to be very conscientious so that I have a more rich, fulfilling experience of life by slowing down, being present, feeling all the things, not just the good ones, not just the happy thoughts.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever done the pages in the morning, like just to write.
Oh, yeah, for years.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought you had done that. And so I think that's a great exercise for 7s is to get up in the morning and just get it all out on the page because it's a way for you to ideate and then, you've done it. Yeah.
Well, I don't want to end this conversation, but I want to thank you so much. This is so valuable. And I hope what people are taking away from this is really this metaphor that there's always an opportunity to shed the past and to shed parts of ourselves in a sense that the growth comes from knowing or having opportunity to look inward and think, what am I willing or ready to let go of? What would I like to create more of? What would I like to create in this new life, in this next phase, in this next season, whatever that holds for you? And that we can use tools like the Chinese lunar calendar, like the Chinese New Year, like the Enneagram to deepen our understanding of our own experience. Any final words?
Well, I would just say find what works for you. There's so many good tools out there. Your Working Genius is a great tool. There's so many good tools. And what I tell people is if you are starting to work with someone or something and it's just not landing, then go find something that is, because there's so many things that will be helpful. And we can't do the work alone. We need a good framework. We need coaches. We need friends. That's where we can really grow and learn. So I appreciated growing and learning with you.
Me too. Thank you so much for your time, Roxanne. Where can people find you?
Oh, people can find me on my website. It's just roxanneharrison.com. And hopefully I'll be posting some workshops soon. And we can jump on a Zoom call and talk about all the things we talked about today.
Excellent. Thank you, Roxanne. Make it a great day.
Thanks, Claire.
So, if you remember back to those questions I asked at the beginning, right, about the patterns that no longer serve you and what it would look like to step into new energy. Well, here's what Roxanne reminded us about today. Your patterns are not the enemy. They're brilliant adaptive strategies that got you here. But now they might be the very thing that's keeping you from the vitality and the freedom that you're seeking. So whether you're a type 8, right, who needs to stop pushing the river, right, or a type 9 who needs a safe place to express a little anger and get clear on priorities, or type 7 like me who's missing the freedom available in this moment because you're trying to do too much or no matter what it is, the invitation is the same. Notice. Notice when you're running your pattern. Loosen your grip, even just a little, even just 10%. Create some space for something new. Because here's the beautiful part. You don't have to do this alone with just willpower. Roxanne showed us that aligning with natural rhythms, the seasons, the sun, the moon, using frameworks like the Enneagram and the lunar calendar and bringing embodied practices into the work can help you actually sustain the changes that you want to make. Okay? I'm so grateful to Roxanne for walking through all 9 types with us and for bringing her unique combination of, workplace experience, Enneagram wisdom, and Qigong practice to this conversation. So if today's discussion resonated with you, I really want to share this. Roxanne is teaching a workshop called Riding the Fire Horse, an Enneagram approach to avoiding burnout. And that's going to be on Sunday, March 1st, 2026. It's here in the Santa Cruz region. It's at Pleasure Point Dance Studio. And you can find the registration details at pleasurepointsanctuary.com. Okay, pleasurepointsanctuary.com. You can also learn more about Roxanne's work at roxanneharrison.com. Both of those are in the show notes. So thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you next week. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. To learn more about my services and for lots of free resources and additional tools to enrich your journey, visit my website and subscribe to my newsletter at clairelaughlin.com. If you have a question about leadership, teams, or organizational culture you'd like me to address on the podcast, please reach out to me at support@clairelaughlin.com and connect with me on social channels at Claire Laughlin Consulting. Until next time, lead the way.